Sorry about all that. Or my dog's in there. So what we'll do, we'll kind of use this as a restart since we're making all this up as we go along. Um, a couple weeks ago, we started a conversation about those people who come into the rooms. We see them, they never speak up, they never share, they never talk. We don't get a chance to speak with them, so we don't know what's going on. But we see them that one night or that one meeting, and we never see them again. And we posed the question, um, why? Why do we not ever see them again? And I started, Eric and I started talking, and I started thinking about it. And I'm only pontificating here. I'm only guessing. But in my mind, it makes sense that they're obviously not connecting. And as I shared on the monologues yesterday, today, whenever, um, there's just people we can attribute a large number of that group of people who come in once, they get their paper signed, they move on, and we never see them again. We can attribute a large number of that group to people who just aren't ready to stop. They're going through the motions. They're just not ready to stop. They don't want to connect. Um, and then there's a group of people that they want to connect, they're willing to connect, they're actually connecting, but they go back into old ways and patterns and behaviors. Maybe they go home, they go back to a job or back to a relationship, and that connection that they formed is not strong enough, and they end up losing that connection. And then, of course, they end up relapsing. Or that I think there was the second. I think that would be the second biggest group, or second biggest amount of people that we're talking about here. But then the third group are the people who want to connect. They're trying to connect, and they can't connect. And I posited the question, is there something that the group, that the fellowship is doing or is missing, I should say, that's aiding in that person's inability to connect with the group, with the fellowship? Is there something the group is doing wrong? Is there something that they're doing that is distancing to that newcomer? And that's where I posed the question a couple weeks ago. Should the group not do like a 10 step as a group itself, not individuals within the group, but as a group itself? I don't know, like today, Eric, you remember today, this morning, I said, what do we change? I asked the group this morning, what do we change? Is there something we change about how we conduct this meeting? What's working, what's not working? And out of all the people in the room this morning, they were like, no, this is what we like this. So that's the question. That's the topic. How do we reach the people who want to connect but don't feel like they can? They just, for whatever reason. Now, again, I'm not negating, I'm not discounting the fact that the person, even the person who wants to connect, who's trying to connect, I'm not discounting the fact that the majority of that is on them. I mean, it's something they got to fix inside. I get that. But I'm talking about that very small percentage, that very small subset of people who it's because of something the fellowship is doing. And that's the question. What is it the fellowship could do differently to connect with more people? Deb?
I'm Deb. I'm an addict. So I was sitting here thinking about it, and it kind of ties in with a little bit about the meeting that we had last night, like talking about the open mindedness. So I was sitting here thinking about like that small percentage of people. It's like they're strict and they're narrow minded, like it has to be this way or no way kind of thing. Like you have to do it this way, and it's like people come in these rooms and they think it has to be one certain way, and it does not. Like, and people come in these rooms and they think, oh, okay, well, recovery has to be worked this way because so and so said so in this meeting or whatever. And they get taught these old ideas. I mean, hell, I did, in the very beginning. Like, I've been through a lot of sponsors, and I had this hardcore sponsor like back in 2019, 2020, or whatever it was. And she helped me, but at the same time, like she harped on me about certain things. Like if I did certain things, she was like, no, you can't do that. Like, because this is the way it's ought to be. It's like pointing your finger down at me kind of thing. And like, you know, it kind of gave me these belief systems like, oh, it had to be this way or that way. And I don't know, it doesn't have to be that way. We can recover whatever way works for us. Like you can try different things. And I think a lot of people, like they come in certain meetings you go into and they'll say, for instance, the one big thing is, you know, well, you need to get a sponsor that they have to have a
Mm,
year or more sober. No, that's bullshit. They don't have to have a year or
right.
more sober. Um, they just have to work the 12 steps. That's all. That's it. I
Mm.
mean, yeah, it's nice to have a sponsor that has over a year, but hell, there's sponsors out there that's got 10 years sober that I don't want as a fucking sponsor. I'm sorry. No, the way they live their life, do I want them as a sponsor? Hell no, I don't. I'd rather have somebody that's got 6 months sober that's out there, living their life the way they're supposed to, that's worked the 12 steps, that's you know, they're living their life, way better than somebody that's living their life dry. And
Ooh, dry like a dry drunk.
yeah, basically,
Okay.
I don't rather than, I've seen it in the room so many times. And just like there's just so many different things that you see in meetings, like people are just different things, I guess. And a lot of people just they believe it. And I think sometimes they just get pushed out of the rooms and then maybe they want to connect, or maybe they don't know about crosstalk, or they don't know about other meetings that's maybe out there. And they think that there's only one certain way to recover and there's not. So I don't know.
Hmm. Okay. Do you think the meetings, the fellowships, the meetings that are available, do you think they bear responsibility to, even in the smallest degree, even to the smallest degree, do you think the meetings out there bear even a small degree of responsibility for the amount of people that come in and go back out?
I mean, everybody's their own person. If they go back out, a lot of times people, sometimes they're just not ready,
Correct.
honestly. I mean, I'm not
100%.
blaming it on the meetings per se. Um, but I think it's, how should I say this? Like, I think we as individuals should not tell someone it's got to be this way or that way in order for you to recover. I think we are responsible in sharing a message of hope. It is
Hmm.
our responsibility. I believe it is the meeting's responsibility to be able to spread that message of hope and not be closed minded in the fact of it has to be this way or that way kind of thing. So I guess maybe a small percentage, yes.
Eric, do you feel that meetings, at least with the context, within the context of the people within the meetings, I should say, do you what's your take on there? Is there responsibility, even in the smallest degree? Um, do they bear responsibility to people coming in, going, shit, this is not for me, and going back out?
Well, I'm going to take it one step farther, I guess. And it's kind of the conversation that being you had, I don't know, what was it, 3 weeks ago or 2 weeks ago or something like that.
Yeah, right.
But I think one of the biggest problems with it is I'm not saying every meeting's like this, but I'm saying that there's a lot, but you have a particular individual or two or three or four people in a particular meeting that particular meeting has put on a pedestal, so to
Hmm.
speak. And then say if say if a newcomer does come in And just so happens, they see that, and then they see that person out in public, or they see how that person's acting in public, or hell, maybe that particular person or one of those individuals that was up on that pedestal just happened to go out and relapse, and that person sees that. They think, well, what the, as a group, that person's probably going to think, well, what the hell, what kind of help is this, type thing. They're putting these people on a pedestal, or and they're, I don't know, almost idolizing them, and then they're acting completely different outside of the meeting, or they happen to go back out and relapse, and so that, I think that has a tendency to drive people away myself. Um, so as a
So
group,
why is it important that people connect with the fellowship? I mean, if that's what we're talking about here, that people are missing that connection, why is it important? Why is it so important that people connect with the fellowship?
because that's your support network. I mean, that's, if it wasn't for, it's just like I said the other day in a meeting, you was there, Deb, you wasn't, I don't think, but, um, you know, if you really want to, get down to the particulars of it, Chris is my sponsor just as well as Drew is. And Deb,
No, that's right. Yep.
There may be times to where I may try to pick up the phone and call Drew, and Drew don't answer. So I'm like, you know, so I may call Chris, or may call you, or may call Matt or Joey, or whoever, and they answer the phone and be like, hey, what's up? And they talk me through it. So that's where the fellowship is your support system. That's all it boils down to. I mean, I don't know. As
Deb,
far as
if
the
had you, oh, go ahead.
as far as the connecting part of it, and why the people is not connecting to those particular people, man, I don't know. And that's the question I pose to you. What are we doing wrong as a fellowship?
Yeah. Deb, what's the important? I mean, do you concur with Eric that the importance and the significance of connecting in a fellowship is developing and forming the foundational basis of your support network?
Absolutely. I agree with him 100%. And when Eric was talking about that, actually, it came to me. I was in a meeting last week, in an AA meeting, and someone had shared about, I'm trying to word this how they worded it, but they were talking about how the phrase they used was basically, when they are broken or something's going on with them inside, basically their spiritual condition, when something's going on with them and they need to call somebody, their support network, what do? They have numbers in their phone. I think it might have been a triangle or something, but they have numbers in their phone. They have a support network. They have someone they can reach out to and they can call. And they compared it with, for instance, someone having a mechanic's number in their car, or for instance, this might sound lame because I'm a girl, but I have more than one hairdresser's number in my car. If my hairdresser is unavailable to do my hair, I have a couple backups in my telephone to get my hair done or whatever. Or for instance, if it's a guy, you have a mechanic's number in your phone, something goes wrong with your car. What do? You call the mechanic's number in your phone to go get your car serviced or fixed or whatever. So what do we need to do if something's going on within us and we need to talk to somebody and connect with somebody about our recovery? Then we need to have someone's number in our phone about recovery within the support network system. And when they were saying that in a meeting, it just like a light bulb went on, and I was like, oh my God, that makes perfect sense. So yes, what Eric said was like, Yeah, that absolutely 100%. And I don't even know if that even made sense, but
No,
I mean,
so
it's
I think
important
the
fellowship.
no agreed. I think the important thing there is you noted that Eric needs a new hairdresser.
No,
He needs a new
no,
number.
not at all. I was using it as a
I'm joking.
as an analogy, like,
But I
I
think
need
that
to
is a girl thing.
I need to find Piper a hairdresser
Oh
or a
yeah,
dog
pipe
or something.
dog dresser, dog
Yeah.
hairdresser. Is she still asleep down there?
Yeah.
Oh, where's she at? Oh, we leave that puppy alone. So okay, we've established that they're the people coming into the rooms. They're obviously coming in the rooms because they're looking for some sort of human connection. I said it this morning, Eric. We're social. We're creatures. We're social creatures. We're human beings, and we are social creatures by by birth. We look for that connection. When we were in the madness, we were trying to find connection, right? We were trying to find connection. We were trying to um, maybe find the next dealer, maybe find the next liquor store. And I remember how friendly I was to everybody all the liquor stores I went to. I was always friendly with the cashiers. I'd see them out other places. So we're looking for that connection. And there's something that's preventing people from making that connection when they come into the fellowship. And while I concede, hell, I'll even concede 96 out of 100 people who come in and leave, they do so on their own. They're not ready to connect, or maybe their connection's not been strong enough. That's fair. But what about those 4 people left out of that 100 who want to connect? And like you said, Eric, it comes back down to that basic fundamental question: what are we doing wrong in recovery?
Well, I don't know. I was going to say this a little bit ago, and it kind of slipped my mind. But I think as a fellowship, whether whether it's in a particular meeting or whether it's, I don't really know how to address this, but like it's like our crosstalk meeting, for example. It may not be for some people, and
Correct.
people may not, connect with the way we, particularly do our meetings.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it needs to be addressed that that's not the only meeting out there, so to speak. I don't know if there's a proper way to address that. Like if you walk into one meeting and people particularly don't, somebody's like, well, let's just, I don't know, just walk into an AA meeting anywhere, and they'd be like, oh, I don't know if this is for me or not. How does the fellowship address that, saying, hey, well, if you don't like this meeting, maybe you should try this other meeting down the street or whatever.
What about like this morning, Deb? You've been in and out of the rooms over the years. You've seen so many different meetings, a wide array of meetings. There was a gentleman this morning as we were in the treatment facility. He said that, and Eric, keep me honest, I'm paraphrasing, but he was basically shut down. He was basically told you can't be in this meeting because you identified as a drug addict. Is that? I just want to make sure I understood him correctly this morning, Eric. Right?
That's the way I understood it too.
Okay. So, Deb, you've seen, like I said, you've been in a lot more meetings. What either Eric and I have been into. Um, does that create the impression to the newcomer coming in who may not be familiar with the rules? They may be new to recovery entirely, and so they come in, they sit down, they hear everybody else identifying, say, as an alcoholic. And I'm not picking on AA. That's my go-to experience. They come and sit down, they hear everybody else saying, and they say, well, in their minds they're going, I'm not an alcoholic, I'm a drug addict. So they finally speak up, and they speak up, and they speak incorrectly by saying, I'm an addict. The next thing you know, you have all the old timers in the room saying, no, no, you can't do that. Have you seen that happen, Deb? You,
Absolutely, I have.
what's
Yeah,
it made you? How's it made you feel when you saw me? How did you feel in that moment?
it's a little uncomfortable for them
Mm-hmm.
and kind of for me. I a little confused. I don't know, like just like kind of like why would you do that? Like I've seen it done here in Huntington. I've seen it done in Parkersburg where I'm from. I've seen it done
Okay. Yeah,
And that's
I think
it's just the people are set in their ways. It just really burns a fire under my ass. It really does. I swear it
I
does.
mean, go
go ahead,
ahead.
Eric. No, go ahead,
Well,
Eric.
I I mean, I get okay. Listen, I understand it. You know
Mhm.
about, but like you said, if a person brand new into recovery and they've never been to a treatment facility, they've never been to any type of um formal meeting whatsoever, and they're trying to seek help, and they just happen to walk into a meeting, and they identify as an addict in an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting or an alcoholic in a Narcotics Anonymous meeting. I, I don't think that that particular group should ask that person immediately to leave.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Mhm.
I think that after the meeting's over with, maybe a few group members may or should go to that person and say, hey, you know, are you new to this meeting? And start asking questions, try to figure out where they're at. Is it their very first meeting? You see what I'm getting at? And try to get to the
Mhm.
bottom of the cause before they just make an example out of that particular person in the middle of a meeting and say, "Hey, you can't do that in here. I'm sorry, you're gonna have to leave." I don't that to me that's not right.
So I said it this morning. When in Rome, do as the Romans, right?
Yeah,
And okay, it's one thing for the newcomer to walk in. They've never been to this meeting. They've never been to any meeting. It's one thing for the newcomer who has a sincere desire. Hey, I'm coming here for help. I don't know the rules. I don't know the parliamentary rules. Drenda's going to cringe when she hears that word. Um, but I'm not familiar with the rules. So, but I do want to speak up. I do want to share. And so they accidentally or inadvertently speak up and they say, "Hey, my name is Drew and I'm an addict." I don't think you should berate them or chastise them publicly. I don't think you should
I don't
stand up and
either.
say, you know, how dare you? You have to identify as an alcoholic in this meeting. A friend of ours, Bragg, and he looked up and he's like, I thought you wanted me to work an honest program, you know. So now you're telling me to lie when I'm not an alcoholic, I'm an addict, and I think that's a fair rebuttal. But I think what's happening, going back to what are we doing wrong in the fellowship? We're not taking these our own suggestions and applying it. In that situation, the people within maybe the home group of that meeting should go, hey, wait a minute, we just embarrassed this newcomer publicly by it's one thing to say, hey, listen, Mr. Newcomer, we appreciate you speaking up. Next time you share, could you please identify as an alcoholic? It's not necessarily what we do, it's how we do it, right? It's our intent. And when we just immediately jump up, chastise this person publicly, we humiliate them, that newcomer, they're going, shit, I'm never coming back to this fucking meeting. And I think that's one possible way of us chasing people back out the door inadvertently, unintentionally, just because we as a fellowship are not cognizantly applying and thinking of things anyway from the context of the whole. We're not doing that 10-step review, so to speak. And I understand, I talked about it this morning on a monologue. I understand that the 10th step is for the individual, and I concede that 100%. I concede that. The 12 steps are suggested for the individual. The 12 traditions are suggested for the group. But that brings us or segues into the next topic. You can't, in my mind, you can't sit there and make the argument of, well, that's a step for the individual AAer that should be applied to the individual AAer and not the group. You can't make that argument and then turn around and expect the AAer to work the 12 traditions, because the 12 traditions were created for the group. It's the circular argument, circular reasoning. You can't have expect the newcomer to follow the 12 steps, and then force the 12 traditions down their throat. Because I like going back to my morning monologue this morning. We've now complicated things. We went from 12 steps to 24 things, 24 steps, if you will, in the newcomer's mind. And I think we complicate the shit out there. You can't make the argument that the 12 steps are only for the individual and not the group, but then turn around and make the argument, same argument, that the 12 traditions are for the individual as well. You can't that you can't have that. Do you think there is confusion, Eric?
Um, I think there is, depending on, you know, I don't know. I guess as far as the readings goes, whenever I first came into recovery back years ago, um, I didn't really, I didn't have a sponsor. I didn't know anything. So when they read the 12 traditions, or when they read how it works, and then they read the 12 traditions, I thought it meant I had to apply both those things.
Right.
Nobody told me any different. But with that being said, I never went and asked.
Fair.
I didn't go and ask somebody that had been in the rooms, hey, what's all this mean, or anything like that. And, but thankfully this time around, of course, I did what they told me. I got a sponsor and everything. And the sponsor broke it down to me as in, hey, this is for this is for that, you know, and things of that nature. Confusion, yes, I can see where a newcomer could walk in and be confused by the fact of the 12 traditions and the 12 steps. And if somebody, I hate to say this, but if somebody is telling them that the traditions are for them as well, then they need to run.
I agree with that.
I mean,
The traditions are, I mean, Bill wrote it in the grapevine. He 12 suggested, what is it? 12 suggested points of AA traditions, and I believe, Deb, keep me honest, it was somewhere around 48 ish, somewhere in that ballpark. He wrote that and published it in the grapevine, and it eventually, I think,
something like that. Yeah, it's a lot to wrap your head around. Like, I actually never went through the 12 traditions. I was going to at one point in time. Like, the sponsor I had, like, back in 2019, 2020, she's like, oh yeah, after we get through the 12 steps, we're gonna take you through the 12 traditions. I didn't end up doing it. Like, and it just confused the heck out of me, honestly. I don't know.
Yeah, I see a lot of people, a lot of meetings. Well, Eric, you kind of alluded to it. You'll walk in, you'll sit down, and it's like the first 15 minutes of a meeting are readings. And I concede that that may be very well important to that newcomer coming in. They hear these things, right? Um, After 30 meetings, you're starting to kind of and if you're following suggestions, you're going to start reading chapter 5. You're going to start reading the 9-step promises. You're going to start understanding a little bit more. But I also have been involved in situations where, Deb, what you just said, people expect you to work the 12 traditions. And I'm like, how the blue hell does that? How do you work the 12 traditions when the 12 traditions have nothing to do with the individual AAer? The 12 traditions have everything to do with the operation of the group. And if you go out to AA's website and I'll have to find the link and put it.
Step study the traditions and the concepts meeting on Thursday night. There you go.
So okay, and I'm so glad you said that, because I made a comment this morning on the monologue that the part of the confusion has been we have now inextricably linked the 12 steps and the 12 traditions, right? And we can't pull them apart. And I started thinking about, as a society, as a group, as a fellowship, worldwide fellowship, when did that happen? I think that it started around 53 when Alcoholics Anonymous, anyway, codified it, but also when the book was published, The 12 and 12. I think that's when.
It is when the 12 and 12 was published because he wrote it up there. I think it was up in New York. I actually went up there and seen the house where he wrote the 12 and 12.
So I think with that book being published, it's now been ingrained in recovery culture that, oh, you got to go, you read the 12 and 12, read the 12 and 12, read the 12 and 12. I remember Keith and my first sponsor, they said, just read the damn book.
That's all I did.
Book.
Just the book.
The first 164. Because the whole purpose of Bill writing that book was to engage us, to get us thinking about ourselves, to get us into this dialogue. He was wanted to have a dialogue with us. And that worked for me. That's worked for millions of other people. And Eric and I were talking a little while ago, I guess several hours ago now, on that same thread as far as engagement. Deb, you don't know this. I don't think I shared this with you. I might have shared it with you at the ball game today, but this morning's engagement at the treatment facility, which, by the way, we can't say the name. Just we can't say the name of the facility, but we can refer to it as a facility. This morning's engagement was incredible, and I think it was because, how did I articulate it, Eric? People would ask a question, and we wouldn't go off into this lifelong history lesson, this lifelong history lecture. What we would do is we would pick out a specific point of our personal experience, share just that, and then turn around and re-engage that user or re-engage that person with a follow-up question. And Eric and I were talking a little bit ago, and I said, it's like people have a very short attention span. You got like 60 seconds to answer a question before they start checking out. Think of it when you're laying in bed at night, getting ready to go to sleep, and you're on your phone, you're scrolling, and you see one of those videos. And you're like, oh, this looks kind of cool. And you start watching that video. Well, after like 60 seconds, you're bored of that video because the video is still going. And you're like, well, what's the punchline? Where's the take home message here? And that was something that Eric and I were kind of doing a 10th step, if you will, today, and saying, hey, you know what? This was really engaging. These clients really engaged us today, and it was really, really cool. Do we allow the clients, and not just clients, I should say, do we allow people in the rooms, the newcomer in the rooms? Do we engage them, or do we just expect them to speak up? When they speak up, they talk for 3 minutes or 5 minutes. What do you think is more effective there, Deb?
Engage for what, 3 minutes or 5 minutes?
Yeah, you know how like when you're in a meeting and people, hi, my name's Drew, I'm an alcoholic, or hi, my name's Drew, I'm a drug addict, and you'll start talking, and you'll talk for 3 to 5 minutes. That's a generally accepted time frame of a share in a meeting, right? And they'll start talking, and I get the whole 5 minutes you're probably just rambling, but there's no engagement. There's like, hi, my name's Drew, and blah, 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 for like 3 minutes. Let's say 3 minutes. And then, okay, I'm done. That's all I got. Thanks for letting me share. And then the next guy shares for 3 minutes. Are we missing an opportunity in meetings to ask questions, to say, hey, listen, I heard what you said. What about this? And actually engage that person one-on-one. Isn't that the point of the meetings after all?
Yeah.
I mean, I see both sides of the fence there, Drew. I truly do. I mean, of course, I mean, our CrossTalk meeting is not a traditional meeting, but then again, right. AA meeting is, I see both sides of the fence. I see, if we would happen to answer or ask that person a question in a typical AA meeting and things like that, that takes away from somebody else trying to share. I get that.
That's fair. That's fair.
A lot of people's going to say, well, that's what after the meeting's for, and I get that too. But 9 times out of 10, as soon as the Lord's Prayers are with the end of an AA meeting, if you don't smoke, you're in your car. You
Yep.
know? So, I mean, like I said, I see both sides of the fence, but then again, I have a tendency to go with the fact of, yes, we are missing an opportunity to engage that person.
I think that's fair too. That's a valid point you brought up. That after Lord's Prayer in a meeting, they're gone. They're gone. There's been rooms that I've seen somebody and where I don't smoke. I'm out the door and I'm chasing them down. Hey, thanks for coming tonight. Did you have a good time? Blah blah blah. I just think overall, and let me say this: you are 1,000% correct, Eric. It could be having that bantering back and forth could inadvertently, unintentionally cause another newcomer to not speak up when they want to. I concede that. And the meeting after the meeting before the meeting, that makes sense too. Those are absolutely valid points. For me, though, if I'm a newcomer, I'm coming into rooms, I'm sitting down, I'm nervous anyway. I do speak up. I incorrectly identify myself as an addict, maybe, or maybe I go to an NA meeting and I inadvertently, accidentally identify myself as an alcoholic. Well, now I've been chastised. I've been embarrassed and humiliated. Um, and but I've already spoken up, so I'm sharing. I think somebody coming back to me, even if it is one of those, hey, I'm going to run up to you right after the meeting, right after the Lord's Prayer. I think somebody coming back to me saying, hey, listen, have you thought about this? I heard what you said. Have you thought about that over here? Have you done this? Have you done that? Deb, again, you've seen a lot more people in the rooms. Is there like a mad dash? Have you seen a mad dash after a meeting where people will go run to the newcomer and try to chase them down outside and talk to them?
I mean, I don't know what you mean by a mad dash. I mean, I've seen people run to the newcomer, just like a couple maybe, but like no, not really. And that's one thing that I mean, you don't see that. I can't really say I've seen that a lot here in Huntington, honestly. I don't know if it's just the meetings I was going to or what, but like I will say though, and I think I might have told you about this before, but like we used to do what they call young people in AA, and it just basically means young at heart. You didn't have to be like 16 or 20 even, to be a part of it, but they have them all around the different states, and they even have them in other countries. But West Virginia, we had started one. I think the first one started in Morgantown, and so it ended up in different parts of West Virginia. I think we ended up doing 4 years of it. Well, in the third year, it came to Huntington, and I sat on the committee of it and was real involved in it. And we ended up doing like a big conference for it. And like, they did like workshops and did a big conference, and we had speakers we had flown in, and it was just like, it reminded me a lot about CrossTalk, honestly. Like we stayed up all night and had dance parties, and people were like chugging Red Bulls, and like it was just I mean, I'm telling you, we had like a big DJ, and I'm telling you, we had a really, really cool time. And like it really brought a lot of people in. And then like the fourth year, I think went to Charleston, but you would go to different events and meetings like that, and you would see people swarm the newcomer in places like that. And but then it died off, and then nobody else in West Virginia wanted to take it on because I mean it was a lot of responsibility. But and then of course I got burnout. When you take a lot of responsibility like that, you tend to get burnt out. But but no, I mean, as far as like meetings here in the area, I've never really. That was the only seeing somebody swarm the newcomer in that instance. That was the only time I really seen something like that.
And we're coming up on time here, so I definitely want to be cognizant and aware. Let me say this um, to anybody that's watching this, maybe on playback. Um, we're in no way, shape, or form trying to single out AA. Okay, AA is the only program that worked for me. I believe I can speak for Deb and Eric anyway. That it's worked for you guys too. You've taken it and you made it your own while still remaining true to the fundamental steps. I don't think any of us are picking on AA, but I think it's worth the effort at having these tough dialogues, these tough conversations, because at the end of the day, we're trying to do what Bill Wilson himself said, which was to carry the message to the newcomer. Well, if I'm losing parts of my message along the way of carrying it, then what am I actually delivering to the newcomer? And this is where having these open and honest dialogues, these open and honest conversations about some of the things that are going on in the recovery rooms, we need to have them. I am not in any way knocking AA. For me, this is the only thing I can use as a point of reference. It's the only thing I can. It's the only thing I've only meeting. I've never been to an NA meeting. I've never been. I have been to a CR meeting, several meetings, but I was always drunk. I can't. I can't offer a fair analysis of the CR meetings. But if anybody is watching this on playback, don't take it, please. Don't take it as we're trying to knock AA. That's not the case at all. It's just the easiest thing we can point to as a reference to have these types of conversations and discussions. I firmly believe, Eric, you said it this morning, AA may not be the only way for you to recover. If you try an AA and it doesn't work, that's great, but it's not, doesn't mean it's in the world. There could be other ways. For you, Eric, it worked.
Yeah, I mean, AA is, I mean, the rooms of AA is, you know, that's what worked for me.
Mm.
Now, and we had this conversation this morning at the facility. You know, I know drug addicts that NA does not work for them. They choose to work AA and vice versa. I know alcoholics that go to NA meetings exclusively, you know,
Right.
because that's what they choose to do, you know. So no, and you're 100% right. I'm not, I'm not knocking AA as far as that goes by any means. But, I think well, I don't even know how to word this, but I think the fellowship of recovery, and
Ah,
that's meaning NA and AA and whatever else. I think the fellowship of recovery has a lot of things that could be changed.
yes. And that's what we're trying to address here. And Deb, I'll give you a final word here. You've been in a lot more rooms than what Eric and I have combined. Uh, are these are these things that you can look back over the course of your time in the rooms and go, oh yeah, that makes sense. I mean, is this are these valid arguments and valid points that we're making here?
Most definitely. And then like, what Eric was saying, like just the fellowship of recovery in general, not just, and I'm not knocking AA as well. Like AA is what has worked for me. I am an alcoholic and an addict both, but AA is what's worked for me. However, I go to CrossTalk. I rarely go to AA meetings, but you know, find out what works for you, whether it's AA, NA, Celebrate Recovery, Smart Recovery, CrossTalk, whatever. But I will say just recovery in general, and I'm saying this to anybody that's listening, if you're in recovery, no matter what fellowship you're in, please just look at how you are approaching people in the rooms and how you are how your message is coming across to people, how you're sharing your message, and just know that the newcomer, just look how you're approaching the newcomer, and that they are the most important person in the room. So that's all I have.
Would it be fair to leave it at this? First and foremost, I think any room is better than no room at all.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Um, And this morning, and I'm just we'll close with this actually. Just let me flip back over to the page. This morning, we had a gentleman was like, I guess Eric, he got kicked out. He got actually asked to leave, is what he said.
According to him. So
okay. And I pointed him to on page 164, the last page of the big book. And I love this. Greg P, our friend Greg P down at Miracles, he, this is read in that group. He will show you how to create the fellowship you crave. Just because you go to a meeting that maybe you're not connecting doesn't mean you can't start your own meeting. And it doesn't have to be in a church or a VFW. It could be at the Waffle House, like we also tend to frequent ourselves. So, guys, we're out of time. Thanks for hanging out with me tonight, guys. This has been fun. I like this in-depth, this substantive discussion. It's so much better. I think, just having these types.
This podcast thing was something that Josh.
He did.
Josh, did he come up with that?
Oop.
What?
Is that Joey?
Glad that I can help you out, Drew. Yeah.
Oh gosh. Uh-oh.
Tried.
That's all right. Hey, better late than never. Again, what I just say? Any room is better than no room, right? So we'll take it for sure.
No, it's not.
Oh, here we go. Hey, you know what? You all come back next week, and we'll continue the conversation. How's that?
Okay, sup, Eric? What you doing over there?
Drew,
This is
you
what
might
happens.
wanna take it off record.
I can't see.
Guys, that's all the time we got. Thank you guys for hanging out with us and tuning in. We appreciate you guys following along, and we hope to have more of these conversations in the future. We'll be talking again soon. See you guys.
We're getting pulled over. Get pulled over. Gotta go.